Good morning, kids, and today we're checking out a brand new video from Marvelous Videos about the 8 insane origins of the one, the only, Gojira. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean Godzilla for all of you out there. Anyway, let's hop in and see the 8 crazy ways that big reptile came to the screen. Let's go. Oh, alright, we're starting off with the American Godzilla.
After his
Zilla.
first movie appearance in 1954, Godzilla became all the rage and inspired a bunch of movies, comics, and television series. He was hailed as the king of the monsters, and he was essentially introduced as a dormant kaiju who awakens from his slumber due to nuclear radiation. While this may be his most popular origin story, Godzilla has several varying origin stories across the history of pop culture, and today we shall explore every last one of them. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin.
Here we go. The first Godzilla
1954. To begin with, let us explore the original 1954 Godzilla film and glance at the roots of this character. In this film, it was suggested that Godzilla was a prehistoric intermediary reptile who spent thousands of years sleeping in the deep sea. Interestingly,
yeah, he was just some big-ass lizard at the bottom of the ocean just snoozing up a storm until apparently someone, Japan in the movie, I think America? I don't remember, one of them, was like, hey, let's take this nuclear bomb, drop it down the ocean, and then make it go boom, see what happens. And the resulting case...
the movie's special effects artists had suggested that Godzilla should be a giant octopus, but the filmmakers finally settled on a dinosaur-like creature. When an American hydrogen bomb test resulted in widespread nuclear radiation, this creature woke up from his slumber and wreaked havoc all over the place. In fact, Dr. Kyohei Yamane said that the bomb test destroyed Godzilla's species and settlements, and he somehow survived and rose from within the deep sea after the disturbance. While technically considered a reptile, he lives an amphibious life and can live on land and water. After emerging from the depths of the Pacific Ocean, Godzilla attacked several ships around Japan before making his way ashore, where locals believed that he was a monster who had come to feed on humanity. After the typhoon wrecked the island, the natives found giant radioactive footprints that belonged to a 50-foot-tall kaiju, and he soon earned a reputation as a giant sea monster. Dr. Yamane named him Godzilla, and several battleships were sent to find him and destroy any evidence of...
Hey, fun fact actually about it. The original name Gojira, when you look at it in the original spelling and separate the characters, you actually just get the characters for gorilla and for gorilla and whale. Putting them together technically makes it be gorilla whale. God, I am not being able to speak right now. But it's pronounced Gojira. I like Godzilla.
However,
Shoot
Godzilla soon showed up in Tokyo Bay and stirred up an international emergency as the world panicked at the thought of facing this monster. Eventually, the Japanese Self-Defense Forces ordered to JSDF took extreme measures, such as stopping him by using about 300,000 volts of electricity or attacking him with the F-86F Sabre fighter jets. But all these attempts were in vain. As Godzilla continued to raid Tokyo and turn it into a wasteland, the JSDF approached scientist Daisuke Serizawa to get their hands on his experimental chemical weapon, the Oxygen Destroyer. While Serizawa was initially hesitant, he eventually gave in and traveled to Tokyo Bay with Hideo Ogata. The two located Godzilla sleeping on the ocean floor, and Serizawa then sacrificed his own life to kill Godzilla and end his tyranny. Godzilla's most...
Now, to quickly explain why he sacrificed himself, it's that before that, he destroyed every bit of work he had ever done on how to make the Oxygen Destroyer, because he was like, if this thing is going to be used, it's only going to ever be used once. He destroyed all the notebook, all the lab, everything, and he only had one walking bomb. And the only way for more to be made would be for him to be forced to make it. He didn't want that, so he was like, "No, I'm going to," and he just cut the hose on his scuba gear and just faded off with Godzilla.
Famous ability is his atomic breath, also known as the incandescent light. His breath is typically seen in the form of a white mist-like blast, and it is powerful enough to set entire cities ablaze. His skin is
only in the early days. Oop, hold on folks, we'll be right back. And we're back. Let's go.
can withstand most conventional weapon attacks, and his survival amid a hydrogen bomb test is a testament to his durability. Godzilla is known for his gigantic tail that can trash and destroy entire skyscrapers in one swift strike.
Very
Similarly,
powerful
he
tail.
has sharp teeth and fangs that can bite and destroy buildings and humans. While the oxygen destroyer killed him, Dr. Yamane was sure that more members of his species would continue to appear if humans did not put an end to their nuclear testing practices.
Alright, here we go. On to the second Godzilla origin.
Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, 1991. When Kazuki Omori got a chance to establish the kaiju's origins in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, he took this chance to reveal where the Heisei Godzilla came from. The movie's protagonist, Kenichiro Terasawa, is a writer who has been following the appearance of a dinosaur in the Marshall Island chain. Terasawa finally comes across dinosaur enthusiast Yasuaki Shindo, who confirms he spotted a dinosaur in 1944. Shindo shows him a few pictures of the dinosaur, and Terasawa soon realizes that a dinosaur on Lagos turned into Godzilla after being exposed to radiation from an H-bomb. In the meantime, a psychic girl named Yuki Segusa attends a high-level government conference and reveals that
So yeah, this Godzilla is just giant reptile, nuclear bomb, and boom, that's it.
UFO had briefly shown up near Godzilla's resting place in the sea.
Oh yes,
as the officials arrive on the scene, the UFO's crew, the Futorians, reveals they time traveled to the past to warn them of Godzilla's next attack. We learned that Godzilla had revived and destroyed nuclear plants in Japan, which had made the country inhospitable. They state that the only way to stop this would be to travel to the past and move the dinosaur away from the H-bomb. However, we eventually learned that the Futorians were lying about Godzilla destroying the country, and they just wanted to travel to 1944 with Terasawa and the rest to kickstart the events that would lead to King Ghidorah's creation. While they ensured that Godzilla disappeared in the past, it was too late for them to prevent King Ghidorah's creation, and the Japanese government then decided to recreate Godzilla to defeat King Ghidorah in 1992. In the meantime, Terasawa researches the creature and discovers that the Futorians created a second Godzilla when they went back in time. In the meantime, Emi starts second-guessing the Futorians' mission and confides in Terasawa about the true nature of their plan. She reveals that they were part of a union from the future, and they aimed to end Japanese domination in the future. However, she believed that they went too far and firmly looked down upon their plan to use Ghidorah to destroy Japan, while the Japanese government mutated the Godzilla sword.
I mean, first of all, King Ghidorah would have destroyed the entire world and everything on it.
Into Godzilla,
not just Japan.
Emi sensed the other Godzilla's presence in the Bering Sea, and the sea monster soon emerged from the water and wreaked havoc on the land. He fought against King Ghidorah, and all hell broke loose when the Earth Union organization used technology to turn Ghidorah into a cybernetic monster named Mecha King Ghidorah. While this cyborg faced Godzilla, he initially enjoyed the upper hand due to his technology, but he was no match for Godzilla's heat rays. The kaiju dragged Ghidorah into the sea within him and destroyed the mechanical monster, but this action took quite a toll on his body. As the two of them sank to the bottom of the sea, Godzilla took some time to regain consciousness, and he finally awakened and roared furiously as the movie came to an end. This movie truly showcased a different side of Godzilla and experimented with sci-fi and time travel to deliver a refreshing spin on the same old kaiju origins.
Yeah, that one was kind of crazy. Oh hey, we got the American one. Now this one's just an iguana with a bomb.
The TriStar Godzilla appeared in the 1998 Godzilla film, and he was known as a mutated creature who hatched from an iguana egg. This egg was exposed to a French nuclear test in 1968, and it grew to a height of 180 feet over 30 years. In 1998, a Japanese fishing vehicle sunk to the bottom of the sea, and Godzilla then helped push the sea ashore in Panama. He left giant footprints on the shore, and the French government soon got wind of his existence. They believe that they created a monster during a secret nuclear test conducted in French Polynesia, and they decided to send Philip Roach to investigate Godzilla. Under the pretense of being an insurance agent, Philip studied the crashed vehicle and interrogated the sole survivor, who claimed to have encountered Godzilla. In the meantime, Godzilla started attacking New York City, and the American military assembled a team consisting of Nick Tatopoulos, Elsie Chapman, and Mandel Craven to deal with him. Nick especially did a lot of research on Godzilla, collected his blood, and took pictures that helped him determine that he was an asexual mythical creature who was about to lay eggs. Nick tries to find his nest and contain the damage while the military opens fire on Godzilla and sends him into retreat in the Hudson River. He eventually sank to the bottom of the river and escaped the military, and the entire city took a deep breath of relief. Meanwhile, the eggs hatch into baby Godzillas, and Nick uses the smell of fish to lure them into an arena. After ensuring that the babies were locked within the arena, Major Anthony Hicks orders them to use F-18 Hornets to blow the place up and destroy them all. After getting rid of Godzilla, the city was lured into a false sense of security while the kaiju rested within the river. However, their happiness was short-lived as Godzilla soon reappeared and Nick's team devised a new technique to get rid of him. They electrocuted his mouth with jumper cables and trapped him in suspension cables before blowing him up with F-18 Hornets. As the city erupts in celebration, the camera pans to a single Godzilla egg hatching in the ruins of Madison Square Garden. While Godzilla seemed to lack the original film's character atomic breath and durability, he did have a ton of unique powers. To begin with, his skin allowed him to blend in with the environment and camouflage himself around New York City. He also had low body temperatures, which allowed him to move undetected under the military's thermal scanning radar. He exhibited significant amounts of strength, and he could cause irreparable damage to the ships floating around him. He was also known for his sharp teeth and claws that could be used to fight opponents or burrow his way through the New York underground. His dorsal plates were also sharp enough to slice through a submarine's hull, and the TriStar Godzilla was also known for his agility and durability. While he lacked atomic breath, he possessed a power breath, which can be best described as flammable gushes of air. He could ignite a blast of flames with his breath, which was powerful enough to send several cars flying through the street. The TriStar Godzilla differed from the original in terms
He's just doing a Fusro Dawn on them.
Of intellect and displayed great critical thinking skills to evade the U.S. military.
Oh, what's this one? Oop, hold on folks, we'll be right back. And we're back.
Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack 2001. Also known as the Godzilla from the GMK continuity, he was introduced as an otherworldly successor to the original Godzilla. He appeared as the primary villain of Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack, and he was also known as
Is this the Godzilla that's just literally made out of like 100,000 human souls?
Dark God of Destruction. He was a malicious creature who originated from the souls of dead World War II warriors, and Hirotoshi Isayama described him as the embodiment of the vengeful spirits of war victims. Godzilla was known for his intelligence as well as rage, and he terrorized civilians as well as Mothra, Baragon, and King Ghidorah with his atomic breath. In fact, this variant had a unique gravitational atomic breath that was powered by King Ghidorah's golden gravity beams. He essentially absorbed Ghidorah's energy beams and combined them with his atomic breath to create a much more powerful energy beam. While he lacked regenerative abilities, he was quite durable, and he could rely on the warrior spirits to revive him in the face of death. Godzilla first attacked Tokyo in 1954, and he was later killed by an experimental chemical weapon arranged by the JSDF. While the civilians forgot all about Godzilla over the next few decades, the giant monster attacked New York City in 1998, which was followed by events such as the vanishing of submarines and sightings of a giant kaiju. The JSDF was on high alert for Godzilla's return, and they soon faced him while investigating the wreckage of a research submersible. After gaining confirmation that the monster had returned, the forces deployed fighter jets to fight him and conducted a thorough search on the shores and nearby water bodies. If Godzilla was not enough of a threat, a couple more guardian monsters named Mothra and Ghidorah showed up in Tokyo. Godzilla battled both these monsters on his own while dodging the JSDF's attacks at the same time. He
one quick fun fact is that this is actually one of the only movies where King Ghidorah is actually fighting for the Earth instead of trying to destroy it all. You know, like he normally is, because King Ghidorah wants to just kill the Earth. Or rule it with
several
monsters
JSDF
only.
ships with his atomic breath before destroying Mothra with his nuclear beam. As Mothra vaporized, her energy showered all over Ghidorah, who turned into a dragon king named King Ghidorah. Godzilla engaged Ghidorah in one final battle packed with gravity beams, electrocuting shots, and missile attacks by the Japanese military forces. Finally, Godzilla swallows the Japanese submersible Satsuma and then uses his gravity beams to destroy Ghidorah in a single shot. Meanwhile, the Satsuma Tsuma's captain fires a D-03 missile within Godzilla's
Fire.
body to create a way out, and things take a chaotic turn as the submersible escapes from within his body while he explodes and vanishes from all radar systems. As the movie ends, Japan celebrates their victory over the kaiju while the camera pans to Godzilla's disembodied heart beating on the seafloor and hints at his return.
And yet, nothing. Oh, here we go. Oh, what? Alright, we'll be right back. We're back with a modern-day Godzilla from 2014.
Godzilla
legendary
2014.
Pixels.
When Godzilla returned in 2014, he was given entirely new origins compared to his original counterpart. He was said to be an ancient apex-level predator from the Permian period who had turned to the ocean to adapt to the decrease in surface-based radiation. By venturing deep into the sea, Godzilla could rely on the planet's natural geothermal radiation to keep him going, but the Godzilla vs. Kong movie suggests an entirely different origin. According to this film, Godzilla gained a bioatomic physiology from the hollow Earth's potent blue energized minerals, and he belonged to the Titanus Godzilla species. These species often faced parasitic titans known as Mutos, who managed to kill most of Godzilla's species. The two species would constantly fight each other, and their rivalry continues to the present, where Godzilla and Kong are pitted against each other. In the past, the remaining Titanus Kong members had to leave Hollow Earth and move to Skull Island, while Godzilla continued to rule as the king of the monsters. Ishiro Serizawa put forth the theory that Godzilla was the alpha predator of his ecosystem and that he ensured that other Titan species did not overpower them. When Ghidorah arrives on Earth, Godzilla battles him numerous times before finally taking the fight to Antarctica and burying him in ice. It was said that Godzilla was worshipped by an ancient civilization who dedicated an entire underground city to the kaiju and decorated the place with his murals and monuments. Several murals depicting Godzilla's fights with Ghidorah and Mothra could be seen on the walls of this ancient city that has now been destroyed in the aftermath of the Human-Titan War. While the rest of the Titans were forced into hibernation at the end of the war, Godzilla stayed back and set up his home in their abandoned city that had submerged underwater into Hollow Earth. This version of Godzilla was mentioned in Kong's Skull Island before he first appeared in the 2014 Godzilla film, where he confronts parasitic life forms known as Mutos who have been wreaking havoc in San Francisco. After finally killing a female Muto with his atomic breath, Godzilla passed out due to exhaustion while the military inspected his body. He opened his eyes to find out that the civilians were calling him a hero, and he soon got back on his feet and walked back to the ocean after earning the title of King of the Monsters. He was
pretty much just like, yeah, you know what? I'm done here. I'm gonna leave. And he just does that. He just walks off.
Appeared in a comic series titled Godzilla Aftershock and a flashback in Monarch Legacy of Monsters. About 5 years after leaving San Francisco, Godzilla made a grand return in Godzilla King of the Monsters, where he fought against Mothra and Ghidorah. Ever since, the MonsterVerse version of Godzilla has appeared in numerous media such as Godzilla Dominion, Godzilla vs. Kong, and Justice League vs. Godzilla vs. Kong. He was known for his intelligence, durability, and immense strength, among other things, and his signature atomic breath was sharper and more focused than other iterations. His powers originated from a bionuclear circulatory system, and in the face of danger, a neutron flux would fire up and travel up his dorsal fins. This neutron flux would...
As what was said in Goju Sento, no dick, no balls, and most likely no butthole because this guy feeds off pure radiation.
Finally reached the nucleosynthetic chambers, generating atomic breath. He could also create massive tsunamis, unleash a number of sharp claws and fangs, and heal from any injury in a moment's time. Godzilla's prehensile tail helped him balance the weight of his body, and it also doubled as an improvised whip that could knock out his opponents. It is also worth pointing out that he is not a cold-blooded reptile, and he showed high resistance to extreme heat as well as frigid cold temperatures. However, he did share some features with reptiles, such as his ability to see another being's body temperature and read thermal signatures. He also had a sharp sense of hearing and extrasensory awareness, and lastly, he could generate thermonuclear pulses capable of melting any object in close vicinity.
Now hold on. Before we even move on to Shin Godzilla, one thing though is that those thermonuclear pulses could only be done once he has done the whole symbiosis thing with Mothra. When he doesn't have the whole powers, he can't do the pulse. When he does have a pulse, he can do the pulse. And here we go to personally my favorite Godzilla, Shin Godzilla. I'm sorry. My voice kind of went off there for a second. Love it. Oh, ad. Be right back. And we're back.
Shin Godzilla 2016. Portrayed as Godzilla's tallest and longest incarnation, Shin Godzilla had mutated after feeding on the nuclear waste thrown in Tokyo Bay. An essay by Goro Maki suggests that Shin Godzilla's large claws and fangs enabled him to feed on the canisters of radioactive waste, and that he was a prehistoric marine reptile who likely originated in the Paleozoic era. After feeding on numerous waste canisters, Shin Godzilla's body started growing. In over 60 years, he gained enough strength to travel ashore and sprout arms. He evolved into a being capable of standing on his legs, and the Japanese Coast Guard first discovered him while they were searching for the owner of a small yacht. As the officers inspected the area, the water started erupting and flooding the Tokyo Bay aqualine, and they concluded that an underwater volcanic eruption had taken place. However, Rando Yaguchi insisted that a sea monster and his claims caused the eruption were proven true when Godzilla's suit erupted from the water and splashed his gigantic tail around. His body kept secreting a red liquid through his gills, and this helped the government track him down to Kamakura. By this time, Godzilla had evolved into a much larger being, and the JSDF's weapons had no impact on him. The United States offered to help him, and they used B-2 Spirit stealth bombers to attack Godzilla. However, this attack was in vain, and the kaiju retaliated by burning almost 3 districts with his atomic breath. It then entered a state of hibernation, and both the Japanese and American forces studied him over the next 2 weeks. They learned that his bodily cells could convert air and water into a radioactive isotope, which is where he got his energy from. While the American government proposed dropping a hydrogen bomb on him, Yaguchi did not wish to drop nuclear bombs on Japanese soil and came up with Operation Yashiori to destroy his bodily cooling system by exposing him to a blood coagulant. When Godzilla finally regained consciousness, Yaguchi's team kick-started their operation and force-fed him blood coagulants. Slowly but surely, Godzilla's body went into a state of suspended animation, and the operation was declared successful. While the Americans called off the nuclear strike, they warned them that they would not hesitate to drop a bomb in case Godzilla ever returned. As the movie comes to an end, we see several Godzilla-like creatures sprout from the end of his tail, which suggests that the Godzilla threat is far from over. Shin Godzilla had several unique powers while also retaining the original Godzilla's signature atomic breath. He typically breathed a stream of fire and then focused the fire into a narrow purple radiation ray that could burn through buildings and attack distant targets. Shin Godzilla could also redirect his atomic energy to his dorsal plates or tail to fire multiple beams simultaneously. One of his most unique abilities were self-mutation, as his organs kept evolving throughout the film. He was considered the most evolved creature on the planet and had only grown stronger with every mutation. His body was quite durable, and only the massive ordnance penetrator bomb could make a dent in his thick skin. His eyes also had an inbuilt anti-flash defensive membrane that would protect his eyesight from any damage. His body was quite advanced, and it released a superheated red body fluid capable of melting car tires.
Oh, Godzilla Earth.
Godzilla Earth 2018. Godzilla Earth is probably one of the most unique forms of Godzilla, and his origins lie in plant life instead of animal life. It can be best described as the end result of natural selection, and he has evolved into the most powerful life form on Earth over a period of 20,000 years. His evolutionary process involves incorporating the characteristics of other organisms by the process of horizontal gene transfer, which has helped him gain several abilities. These include stealthiness, extreme durability, heat resistance, and regenerative abilities, alongside his signature atomic breath. Godzilla Earth possessed a variant of atomic breath where he stored energy and channeled it into a crimson spiral beam capable of destroying things within a 300-kilometer range. During his evolution, he developed the super oscillatory wave, a loud roar that could crush and destroy targets with its vibrations. Godzilla Earth's body was integrated with metallic muscle fibers that helped him support his weight and resist nuclear attacks. His bodily cells regenerated at a speedy rate, and he could heal his bodily tissues in a matter of seconds. Besides regeneration, his cells were capable of reproduction, and he spawned entirely new species such as the Servum and Godzilla Phileus, while also creating an entire ecosystem around him. While talking about Godzilla Earth's body, it would be a shame not to mention his impressive tail that was strong enough to support the weight of his body. He could also extend his tail to grab objects or destroy structures, and he could create a powerful plasma shockwave capable of eradicating everything in its path. His body constantly emitted high-density radiation that could be dangerous to humans who ventured down the same path as him. He could further convert electromagnetic energy into concentrated heat that would increase the temperature of his immediate surroundings to over 1,000 degrees Celsius. In a confrontation with Ghidorah, Godzilla Earth raised his body temperature to over 3,000 degrees Celsius, but sadly his attack did not work out as he had hoped. Godzilla Earth was first discovered by Kyohei Yamane in 2030 after he traveled to Odo Island to investigate the death of amoebas. He first appeared in Godzilla Planet of the Monsters as the most powerful kaiju of the Reiwa era, and he often terrorized humans and kaiju alike. The United Earth was at a loss for how they could destroy him, and their key weapon, the Mechagodzilla, was also lost the following year. Finally, they decided to relocate the entire population of Earth to a distant planet in the Cetus constellation, but Godzilla attacked one of the emigration ships in 2048. While some survivors escaped, the Aratrum ship was running out of resources and they decided to return to Earth to find that about 20,000 years had passed. The planet had evolved to inhabit Godzilla, and one of the crew members, Haruo, suggested that they inject Godzilla with an EMP probe and disable his asymmetrically permeable shield. The plan was to overload his electromagnetic energy and make him explode, but they faced obstacles in the form of tiny creatures known as Cerebrum. They finally faced the kaiju and managed to destroy him, but not without completely destroying the surrounding ecosystem. They further realized that it was entirely possible that there were more living Godzillas out there when an explosion caught their eye. They spotted the original Godzilla emerging from the smoke, and they were devastated to see that he had grown over 300 meters in height. Godzilla destroyed several landing ships with his super oscillatory wave, and Haruo swore to destroy him over the course of the next films, Godzilla City on the Edge of Battle and Godzilla the Planet Eater.
Bum bum. Oh, hold on folks, we'll be right back. And we're back.
Singular Point Godzilla 2021. As stated in the
I watched all of this and I still don't understand it.
Godzilla Singular Point fanbook, Godzilla emerged from a singularity in another dimension. He is introduced as a singular point who alters the mere fabric of time and space and emits a form of archetype in the form of red dust. Singular Point Godzilla's origins can be traced to the Bo-So Peninsula, Chiba Prefecture, where he was first identified as a sea monster named Gojira. It was prophesied that he would bring about the world's end by turning the seas red, and this event was termed the Catastrophe. The 10th episode of Godzilla Singular Point reveals that he was once killed when he attacked a fishing village during World War II. His bones were then discovered by a scientist named Michiyuki Ashihara, who passed them on to Misakioku in his will. While Misakioku kept the bones a secret, he monitored the signals that were emitted from them in the form of a song, Alapu Upala. Years later, Godzilla appeared in 2030 after the radio wave monster wreaked havoc during the Summer Moon Festival in Nagashio and caused a worldwide monster invasion. The novelization of Godzilla Singular Point revealed that kaijus were physical extensions of an omnipresent extra-dimensional entity that observes the universe and sometimes assists humanity in their attempts to thwart Godzilla, among other kaiju. In the Singular Point iteration, Godzilla's signature breath was not atomic in nature. It was described as a CTC molecular laser that converges multiple beams from the future to deliver a powerful blast. He also underwent several stages of evolution, ranging from Godzilla Aquatilus to Amphibia before taking his Terrestris form, and he finally evolved into a higher order being known as Godzilla Ultima. In 2030, he was first discovered during his Aquatilus phase, where he ended up in Tokyo during his attempt to hunt a swarm of Manda. He soon evolved into an amphibian and faced the military forces before entering a cocoon-like state to transform into Godzilla Terrestris. During this phase, he could breathe a flammable ice vapor and expel large amount of weaponized archetype that would create a thick cloud of red dust around him. Godzilla was essentially in control of the red dust archetype, which allowed him to manifest himself and revive his body even after dying numerous times. The JSDF